Nerfs are a necessary evil in any asymmetrical game with multiple distinct characters and weapons. Warframe is no exception. In an ideal world, every single frame and weapon should be thoroughly play-tested so that every exploitable aspect of it gets ironed out before public release. A perfect world is one where nerfs and buffs need not exist in. But is that even possible in a game like Warframe, where new systems and metas are added constantly? Sadly, no, but sometimes a nerf for the wrong reasons is an unnecessary one, and an overreaction to a necessary nerf will get us nowhere. Both of these things are pretty self-evident thanks to the recent dev workshop that comes with 4 changes that many are pointing as nerfs. Today, we're going to discuss them. Stick around. I'm Deuce, and thanks in advance for watching. Let us begin with the Banshee Changes. These come as a complete rework to Banshee's Soundquake augment, Resonating Quake. Upon cast, instead of going off like it does now, the proposed changes will make the frame place a quake that does not require channeling to maintain, letting you move freely. It has a short duration and does not move with the player. It also doubles the range of the regular ability, and its damage scales depending on how far the enemy is from its center. The reason behind this change, as stated by the devs, is from our own public play experiences, Resonating Quake is what we as creators of Warframe find to be the most unfun ability. I want to enjoy this horde shooter, but where are the hordes? But reality indicates that this has been one of Banshee's metas for a long time now. Apparently, it was brought to the developers' attention the fact that this strategy is also employed to AFK farm, which is something they have been cracking down on for a while now. Understandably so, since the idea is for people to play the game and enjoy it. My problem here is that this playstyle is not encouraged by the augment. When the devs state that the humongous area of effect can prevent enemies from getting anywhere near the objective while the casting player is left with nothing to do but wait, they're not referring to Resonating Quake, the augment. They're referring to Soundquake, the ability, so why change the mod? Well, I can only think of 3 possible answers to that question. Number 1, what the devs are trying to stump is not AFK farming, but focus farming, since Resonating Quake enables that big time. Number 2, the developers are not aware of the fact that what enables Banshee's AFK style is not the augment, but the ability itself. And number 3, they are taking a glass half full type of approach by giving us the ability to choose which way we want to play Banshee. The problem with possibility number 1 is the fact that, well, this whole change thing is masquerading as a focus farm nerf, which spells a total lack of transparency by trying to portray it as a gameplay change. The problem with possibility number 2 is pretty obvious. If you're trying to change a play style, then you need to change the ability, since the mod only makes it better. So if you want to completely stomp on AFK farm strategies, then the deployable nature of the augment should be how the ability works. Not realizing that shows a remarkable detachment from the game. In layman terms, devs need to play their game more. And the problem with possibility number 3 is that it solves absolutely nothing. People are going to AFK farm still, and the augment will languish in obscurity. I honestly don't know the right answer, but in the end I think that what needs to be looked at is not the augment but the ability itself. This, of course, is very controversial since changing Soundquake is not something new. It has been tried in the past with no measure of success, but turning the ability from a channeling press 4 to bore yourself to death into a press 4 and do some stuffs in between could be a nice start. But this only comes if the ability itself gets changed. The augment has nothing to do with the issues as presented in the dev workshop. Moving on to Chroma, and the nerf comes to everyone's favorite damage buff, Vex Armor, where the boost will apply before upgrades instead of after, like all the other buffs, which is fair. But why did it take years to fix? Well, the answer is also in writing. Extreme damage boosting was not really a problem, so we left the ability as is. However, the Plains of Eidolon update marked a shift in community mindset by introducing terrorists. So the problem is one-shooting terrorist limbs, which is reasonable. It's also reasonable now that these monsters will give you a ton of stuff just by capturing one. So the outrage is, in my opinion, completely unjustified from that point of view. However, it is true that many players have invested plenty of resources in building this frame precisely for its incredible damage dealing potential, and no compensation has been announced. So feeling bad for this particular reason is justified. Also, there are plenty of other Warframes that enable the one-shot limbs. Harrow, Rhino, Octavia, and Volt come to mind, and that's not even counting Rivens. Does this mean that if these other options become as mainstream as Chroma for hunting Eidolons, they too will get nerfed? Only time will tell. Whether or not this change will turn Chroma into one big useless lobster, it's something that remains to be seen. I don't believe in judging before proving, so this is a case where I think prudent to leave the pitchforks and torches approach for a time when it's actually needed. Ember. Oh, Ember. KFC Prime is getting a big change to World on Fire. 5 seconds after casting, a percentage will begin counting up on the ability icon, as this percentage scales from 0% to 100% over 10 seconds. The ability's energy cost and damage dealt both grow to double, while the ability radius shrinks to half. This is just one big nerf to low-level walking simulator Ember. Why do I say that? Again, let's go to the writing. Ember's specialty is anything under level 30. By simply bullet jumping through levels with World on Fire active, enemies become a non-factor, making Ember a ubiquitous pick across most of the Starshot. So the reason behind this is pacing new player progression, right? Not so fast. This is also a nerf to a very efficient farming strategy. I'm referring to Lith and Meso prime part farming. Right now the fastest way of going about it is just to grab an Ember and go to an exterminate fissure and walk your way through it. It takes only a minute to complete one of those. And yes, the back and forth is annoying, but it's a good payday. With these changes, that is out of the window. In all honesty, Ember with World on Fire is boring, it just is. And if you're the type of person that enjoys doing nothing, well, I guess it's bad for you then. But my problem with this nerf is that it doesn't address the frame's scaling problem, since Ember is pretty much useless against level 70 enemies or higher. Now they did say that the increased damage should help Ember out against higher level enemies, but this is just not true. Even a 100% increase to set ability damage is not enough, especially with all the strings attached to it. This was a golden opportunity to implement a damage scaling mechanic like Hydroid's Puddle or Equinox's Maim, with the affected enemy's health adding up to a pool or something. Also, if the intention is that the gradually increasing energy cost should encourage most players to toggle the ability when needed instead of the current set and forget approach, then why overcomplicate things nerfing the range as well? Isn't the efficiency enough? I think that the range part was unnecessary if we are to interpret the letter of the workshop, but as with all things, only time will tell. Lastly, we get to Bolt, and this nerf is kind of wrapped around a buff, since they will remove the damage cap, increase base damage output from 750 to 1200, but damage and stun duration are halved for enemies further away from Volt. This is affected by mods. I understand the damage downscaling with distance part, but the duration of the stun? The reason behind this nerf is that it was too much. Stunning all enemies for 20 plus seconds through walls and inside spawn closets, adding that it had a seriously disruptive effect on gameplay, which is understandable. I'm no Volt main, even though it was my starter. From the playtime I've had with them since the changes, I don't get the impression of having a seriously disruptive effect on gameplay when stunning enemies, and my build is strictly a control build, range, duration, and efficiency, but I can't compare my personal takes to that of an entire development team. In the end, we have to wait and see for this one. Personally, I'm not sure what to make of these. Nobody wants their favorite frame nerfed to the ground. I was pretty upset when that happened to my Valkyr some time ago. That Hysteria nerf was bad, and I honestly felt it. But still, I acknowledge the need for these types of changes. Balance in a video game, especially one with an asymmetrical approach to gameplay experiences, is extremely hard. Sometimes taking the time to measure and properly iterate said nerfs is the right thing to do. Acting instead of reacting is always better. The same goes to the community. Behaving like everything is the end to everything is just not the proper reaction to, well, anything. Measured and properly reasoned rebuttals are 1,000 times better than temper tantrums. It's not an us versus them scenario. No one is the enemy or in the wrong. Developers will always look at their games from their perspectives, and us gamers from ours. Reconciling both at the same time you also juggle with balance and gameplay experiences is very, very hard, but not impossible. Some of these changes need more iteration in my opinion. I'm of the mindset that nerfing something needs to be a very careful and slow process, since said nerf is also a possibility of taking away someone's fun. For my part, this has been all for now. If you enjoyed the video or you found it interesting, please consider giving it a like. Don't forget to subscribe for more Warframe content and follow me on Twitter to keep up to date with everything. Wherever you are, have an amazing day. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.